Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode number 87 of the Focus and Chill podcast. I'm thrilled to be joined by Werner Van Huffel today. Van is the co-founder and principal of Kaven, an organization dedicated to supporting, representing, and connecting career remoter professionals and remote work-friendly organizations. Unlike traditional recruiters, Kaven's mission is to make remote work the norm by building a sustainable foundation for both individuals and organizations, fostering successful relationships that maximize mutual potential. Great to have you on the show, Van.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Great to be here.
Yeah, Van and I met at the Digital Health Festival a couple of months ago, and we had a good chat about neurodiversity and found that we're similar in our neurotype.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
No, that was very enjoyable. I've been, like I said, I've been trying to get back in touch with you for ages, and it's really good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you want to start by telling us about your own journey of finding out that you weren't neurotypical?
Yes, it's interesting because I never actually thought myself any different to anybody else all the way through growing up and starting work life until started having children and seeing the way they interact with people and looking at myself. But that's different. Being told it is different more than anything else. So it was really, I'd say, that realization that my children aren't fitting in, for want of a better term, that I looked back at myself and went, oh, it's exactly like that. But in this day and age, it seems to be less accepting of people with difference. And we find that's a bit of a problem when you've got these tags of like neurodivergent versus neurotypical and stuff like that, almost like an us and them, which is another reason why we started Kaven, I should say. So we'll get to that later on. But that led us to basically, and that's my wife and I, to do psychology degrees, learn about that, and homeschool our children. Because, of course, lots of neurodivergent people don't actually fit into the regimented regime that's in education. And you find that there's a lot of stress for neurodivergent people out in the community because they're finding that they're outside, yet inside, but feeling outside. When we've done that, for instance, we excelled. We realized that as we're going through university and doing our psychology degrees, and prior to that, looking at our history, one thing about psychology, you can do the tests that supposedly tell you that. We started on those aspects and we went, no, damn it, we are. And so my realization was really in only the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years, fully, that I was like that and what it actually meant.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the journey there with actually going out and doing a psychology degree to figure out how to support your kids.
I can highly recommend it to everybody. Because you learn so much about yourself and others. It's actually quite incredible. And part and parcel of what we provide is also that background and backing. Because we're not outsiders. Nobody with neurodivergence is an outsider. But there's this constant battle of classification that you find out there. So you become an outsider by adhering to that I am, you are approach. Hence, we talk about we a lot. Because we are majority of the friends that we have are neurodivergent. But that's not to say all of them are. But we don't push people to say I'm neurodivergent or not. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that's the way we see the world, and we try to be inclusive of what we understand and interact with people on.
I was also struck by when you said that you felt that when you were growing up that did you say there was more acceptance of difference?
Yeah, there wasn't any classification per se. So if you were naughty at school, for instance, and I was not that good at school.
Yeah.
But, I was running around, jumping off things, doing flips of silly things and stuff like that. Going scuba diving by myself at midnight because I felt like it. Skydiving, getting ready for base jumping and doing all these things. And I found out later on that my friends actually had a bet that I wouldn't survive till 21 at one point.
You were doing all of that before 21?
Yes. And then I kept on doing it after that. But the upshot of it was that when you are within a spectral approach to neural classification, like ASD or ADHD or whatever else you want to talk about in that space, there are certain traits that you carry. And these are the things that actually people try to define you as. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to do that, great. I'll cheer you on. But it was more I think, because let's say I'm older than 40, but younger than 80. How does that sound? And so when you look at it from the point of view of where I was at that point in time in society, in the social structure that we have, there wasn't that tagging. There wasn't that discrete bucket that the DSM-5 sticks here, or DSM, whatever it is right now. And as such, there wasn't this drive to try and normalize your behavior against anything else. So even though you did these things, you were still just a kid. You still went off and had adventures and things like that. You didn't have to try to be normalized against this pseudo-conceptual view of what somebody should be doing. You were neurodivergent. Yes, that's what we call ourselves these days. And it's a nice term, better than saying you're not normal. But there wasn't that need. Now, these days, it's changed a bit, and that's acceptable too. This is what society does. And that's what psychology teaches you, is how to actually look at these things from different perspectives and basically not be affected by them, accepting of them as well. And it seems that we need to do more of the, bring you back to normal. And I don't prescribe to that at all, because we want to accept people for who they are and the value they provide to your relationship with the world. But yeah, that's the sort of stemming of this whole process of why we started Kaven as well. I'm not trying to talk about Kaven. It's just that we saw this need to actually try and introduce this a bit more sanity into the world of consideration when you come to how your mind works and how you affect the world and are affected by the world and how mine does. And that's great. You do that. And together, it's a fantastic world to be in when you're like that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting take on it, because I guess I had the sense growing up that even though there wasn't a label at that point, that I didn't get diagnosed when I was a kid, I felt that the other kids noticed something different about me and they didn't accept me. When I was a kid, the terms like spastic and retard were being bandied around a fair bit. And I think there's probably less allowance of that.
Yeah, that's really severe. We've seen that. Sorry, I'm thinking that's why I'm looking this way. I'm sorry, I should be looking at you. We've seen that in other aspects of the lives of people that we know and ourselves as well. But that also comes from a point of fear. And fear comes from non-normalized acceptance. So if we can do anything at all as individuals who don't follow the same path everybody else does, that is just to accept it at some point. Now, it sounds to me that's a lot of bullying that happened to you, a lot of serious bullying. But when I met you, for instance, at DHF, you come across as if you had any form of regret for who and what's happened to you in the past. You are accepting of these things. You are happy with who you are, and you're doing what you want to do. They haven't affected you, but they do affect others. So I'm glad that you are who you are, and you can talk about it. That's the best thing ever.
Yeah, definitely. And it's probably an age-old problem of that. How do you accept difference without dividing people and putting people into special schools?
Look, a lot of that is very strange to me. There's this concept of special schools and subdividing people. Let me give you a little example. Yeah. Bit background to me. When I was at high school, I loved math, strangely enough. I loved computing programming before computers were actually programming computers. But I loved math. And I got told to drop out of mathematics because I was going to drag the class's overall mark down. I ended up scoring, let's say, pretty high in math at the end of it because I just ignored them and went up and did it. At that point in time, I didn't recognize what was happening. But in the end, I ended up doing both applied and theoretical mathematics along with computing science and then a whole heap of other things. What society tells us we should be doing, and society is a lot of different people versus what we're good at ignoring these things, and we should keep ignoring them, is different. And we should stick with the fact that we are who we are and accept that we can make the decisions that we need to make for ourselves. And we need to accept the decisions we make for ourselves as well, and just be happy with that.
Yeah, 100%.
This is getting really deep very fast. Sorry.
Yeah, this section is quite deep. I think you've already touched on some of the other questions I wanted to ask in terms of some of the strengths that you bring, being able to drill into those areas with the maths and the computer science. What about some of, thinking back to it, what were some of the challenges that you experienced apart from nearly killing yourself base jumping?
I never killed myself. Look, the thing about it is everything I did, although exciting, was calculated.
Okay.
Right. Even scuba diving. I've been scuba diving since I was since I was about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it a long time, but that's no excuse. You should never, the student audience, you should never go scuba diving by yourself. Always scuba dive with a buddy. That's going to get me in a lot of trouble. But some of the challenges really have been finding the tools. And this is a thing which my entire life I didn't realize I was doing. Finding the tools I need to get my brain focused sufficiently to get what I need done in a way that I can do it effectively. It's a hard thing to describe, but I can give you an example. So I am a mathematician, statistician, computer scientist. I've got geology background and everything. I like doing a lot of interesting things in my mind. But when you try to represent information in your head onto paper or in some way that's transferable, it's very difficult. While I can think it and feel it and react to it, trying to convince somebody else of that in an articulate and accurate manner is difficult. That may not be coming across right now, is what I'm saying. So I've been searching for tools my entire life to find out how to make life simpler for people, especially myself. I can only say this because I think like this. And yeah, over the years, I've managed to collate a group of tools, most recently AI. It's another tool. And for a mind like mine, it is fantastic. So one of the challenges has been finding the right tools. Absolutely. If we ever have a chat about AI, I'll talk your ear off. But I'm sure you use it too, because I saw some of the spelling in your thing there too, and the way it was worded. But I'm not going to go into that. But the fact is that we do seek out things which assist us. Each individual does. Some more than others. Whether it's a certain type of pencil, whether it's holding a pencil a certain way, it's a pen, whether it's a drawing pad. In my case, it's technology. I'm always looking for technology to increase my capabilities, increase my ability to communicate and to differentiate the things that I need to. I'm right now doing several things other than the business. I'm also doing some enterprise architecture. I don't know if you know what that is, but I can explain that some other time. Solution architecture, coding, a bit of business analysis work, a lot of advice and guidance and counseling as well. I'm not a qualified counselor, still getting there. That's my latest degree that I'm finishing off. But the beauty of the brain that we carry, and I think I can put you in that bucket too. Sorry to bucket things up like I'm saying I shouldn't bucket things up. Let me just be totally contradictory to what I've just said, is that we can look at all these things, see the patterns in them, and approach them from a totally different perspective to individuals who don't have that ability but have other abilities that contribute to it. So some of the tools I use and have used consistently over the years are drawing tools. Things like Spark CA, which is an enterprise, it's a solution enterprise architecture tool that allows you to compartmentalize the world. So it's really weird in my mind, but what I'm really doing most of the time is looking at things and seeing the pattern in things and trying to apply the pattern so I can actually work other things out from the pattern. And that's the reason why AI is so fantastic, is because AI, essentially at its roots, is a pattern matching algorithm. Yeah. So, like I said, you can talk for days about AI and the whole use of it, but the challenges have been trying to find those tools.
Yeah. We might talk about AI a bit more when we get to the productivity tips section.
Oh,
I think we just segued nicely into talking about your work. So there's the enterprise architecture, solution architecting,
and finding people and representing people. This is why we started Kavn. So prior to this, my wife and I ran a company that was basically a recruitment company. We called it Think Resourcing. And what we found we were doing most of the time was actually not really resourcing, recruiting. It was actually supporting people, not directly even, just making people, and let's be blunt, contractors like myself, feel like they belonged to a group and that they could be who they were and wanted to be and do what they find interesting. Hence the term that we coined called career remoter, or Karen coined it. Not me, can't claim that one. But career remoter is literally that. They always talk about career paths, and I had this in my entire life. And so this was back in I've got to get a bit old now, 1990s. You talk about join a company, follow up with that and stuff like that. I never wanted to do that. And since we started, I think resourcing Kaven, we've met so many people who are like that. We follow our own paths, we enjoy what we do, and now and again we may climb that little bit of the ladder, but who cares? But we do things out of the pathway that is the normal organizationally led pathway. And that's what a career remoter does. They work for themselves, not necessarily by themselves. They enjoy the work that they do. I love my work, whether it's looking for people, talking to people, listening. I do listen very well most of the time, but this is a podcast, so you're listening to me.
You're allowed to talk more.
I'm allowed to talk more. I'm enjoying it. But in that whole frame of think resourcing, we found that what we were doing and what we were inadvertently supporting was people in various different ways. I'm not going to use the term mental health. That's such an ugly term. But just to be the best, be who they need to be, who they want to be. And that's really what we ended up doing. We said, this is a huge opportunity. Then remote working happened over COVID. And everybody realized that, you know what? This is better for me. I get to see my family. I get to do a lot of things. Had more connection with our children, been able to do a lot more by being remote workers, by not following the standard pathway. And believe it or not, anybody that runs their own business is effectively a remote worker. They're doing what they want to do by themselves, but for themselves more than by themselves.
It's interesting about the COVID point because I've heard mixed reports. I personally really loved it as well because it removed the social demands, but I've heard from a lot of pure ADHD people that they found it really difficult, that it made it harder for them to focus because they were getting body doubling from going to the office, and being on their own made it super overwhelming.
Yeah, and that's happened. So let me subscribe quickly for this little bit of the talk to calling people ADHD or ASD. It's a spectrum. And that people forget it's a spectrum. It's not a classification. Now, a spectrum is essentially, if you relate a spectrum to anything, it's not a classification, it's ontology. Ontology is a concept, a relation of concepts. That's the airy-fairy scientific stuff out the way. But it's a spectrum, more pure and simple. And the spectrum that you sit on, that everybody sits on, is there's a bit of all that in what you do. And so, yes, there are in there people that require, because that's what they do, more social interaction. I love social interaction, but I don't need it all the time. I really enjoy it when it's there, but I'm not going to go searching for it. Whereas others would go searching for it because that keeps them what they feel happy. And that's what we support. And if you need that, we're going to find you an engagement where you do have that intense if you want it, or lightly if you want it. We have people who don't like that because it doesn't allow them to focus on what they need to do. But that's just acceptance. It's not, you should not, to do your best, you need to feel your best. And so that is where people need to be looking for what they want to do. And even that, I wouldn't force it on somebody. If you really want to ignore what you feel you need, fine, but we'll support you in doing that. But we'll also be there to help pick you up once you realize something else.
In terms of the type of people that you engage as the contractors and the clients that you work with, is there a theme there, or is it a bit eclectic?
It's eclectic. Like I said, acceptance stems from dealing with people as they are, as they want to be. And many people don't realize who they are and who they want to be. That's also, you accept them for what they are as well. And then there's a journey that everybody goes on through their entire life. One of the things that ADHD and ASD people, shouldn't say everybody, that's stupid of me. The intrinsic nature of introspection doesn't sit very well, for instance, with me. I'm not a very good introspector. I have to focus and concentrate on introspection. Whereas for others, it comes naturally. And so when you don't have introspection like that, you need that sort of support, if you will, to be able to drive that acceptance. There's a lot of counseling and different types of, I had to call them therapies, but different types of ways to help people do that. But the first, it starts out with just going, you're a person and you like doing things this way? Great. So the people we tend to work with mostly are people that are what we would term career remoters. And though it's not a classification, it's, I would say, a philosophy more than anything else for them. They don't prescribe to following a ladder. Yeah. They do love what they do. They've been doing it for a very long time. They are what we tend to call blended capability people. That is, they've done everything, tried everything, as certain types of people do. And they've said, I can do all that, but I really like this. And so that's what we look for. And to do this, I really like this around me to get that done. So that's what we try and find them with organizations. And then on the other side of this is organizations who some are actually what we call remote affirming. And that doesn't just mean they're just, oh, there's somebody over there, we're going to use them and they're going to have to come to the office once a week. That may be it. But that means that they understand the need for communication, how to communicate, understand the needs for culture and how the culture supports the organization and what it actually provides the organization as far as business benefit goes. And they understand the need for supporting that within their people ecosystem. And so we also help organizations with that wherever they need to. And what we see is that this concept of remote work, as you found it very liberating and comforting.
Yeah.
That was the same for us. And it was the same for a lot of people that we know and met and we support. And there's others who found it very difficult to do. They're also not following the same career path. But you accept a lot of them. They are. My honest opinion is it was the best thing that ever happened to anybody to classify a term divergent. And one work. So
from this sample of 2, it seems 100% benefit.
100%. I love statistics. Statistics work so well. Yeah. No, but look, one of the things that we want to do with Kaven is do a lot more of that statistic type of thing with people. We know the sort of work that they do, where they've worked and how they've worked, and talking to people about that and what it means to actually do what they do. Give you an example. One of the people I've worked with for many years, he's been a career remoter since 1999.
Wow.
Another one's been a career remoter for just about as long, but in different roles as like C-level executive. Another one started a company that is all career remoter work that they're doing. So his company's divergent, dispersed across Australia. Another one's company is dispersed across Brisbane. They don't have an office and things like that. We ourselves are dispersed across everywhere as well. That's not always recognized as the norm. And I personally, for my own selfish reasons, would like to see it as the norm. If you want to do that, you can do that. It should be accepted.
Definitely. One thing that it really helps with is having more time for hobbies outside work. It sounds like counseling is one of your newest hobbies.
I wouldn't. No, I think it's actually quite serious for us because we've seen the impact that misalignment between who you feel you are and who you know you are and what they're expected of you to be, it does to a person. I wouldn't say it's soul destroying, but it's insidious. It eats away at people. And so what we will be doing as part of what Kaven does is providing externalized support. So we have, as with a lot of things that we do, 1,000,001 things to do. But in the stage that we're doing right now, we're basically supporting the people that we represent, support organizations that they themselves find interesting to work with, because we're not going to place people with organizations that don't want and that they don't want to engage with. But ultimately, it's not just them, it's also their families, it's also the outside community that don't prescribe to what we would like to represent as well, but they still need the support. So we will be moving into that. So we're currently both doing our counseling degrees.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, because there's not enough normalization of it. And to do that effectively, we're going to make sure that we are able to offer people that balance to their lives by having a chat. At that stage, I will listen a lot more.
Great. Okay, and now I'll segue again. If people have more balance, they have time for hobbies. So what are your hobbies?
I didn't want you to ask me that. That's what
You're allowed to say you don't have any.
Unfortunately, I've got too many. Outside of business and work, I start a lot of things and never finish them. But I've got a lot of hobbies. I would say right now, my primary hobby is trying to work my way through AI, for want of a better term. I've got a little box I've built here. Let's say I spend too much on it, that I run my own AI models, do my own AI tests, and I experiment with the math behind AI. Being a mathematician and statistician, I'm doing a lot of that sort of stuff, building my own models. So it's a lot of, that's the cerebral side of things. Coding is another thing that I do. I do a lot of coding with ChatGPT at the moment, building agentic meshes. That's the latest thing that's out there, which we can talk about another time, which is really exciting stuff. A lot of reading. Mine's mainly scientific in the sense of ICT science, whereas Karen's really looking at the psychology and the counseling side of things. She's very much a behavioralist, and I'm very much the technologist in the psychology side of things, but also in general. And then there's everything else. Yeah.
All the base jumping and
I'm actually, I'm not too old for that, but it's once you have children, I find you tend to have other focuses rather than just doing some silly thing. That was very long ago. I shouldn't have told you about that, should I? but yeah, right now, the hobbies really come down to that and a bit of walking and running, walking and stuff like that. But a lot of cerebral stuff. I'm very interested in all the stuff that's happening.
Wonderful.
Yes, sorry. Long answer for a very short question.
No, it sounds like a fun mixture of the cerebral and the tactile.
Yes. I've got to say it is.
Yeah. So then I was going to ask you about optimizing productivity, and you said that AI is now a key part of that. Do you want to deep dive on that part?
Actually, I don't, otherwise we'll be here for another 2 hours. So when AI sort of made it out of, it's been around since the 1930s, right? Even and AI. So I've got a health ICT background, and there were these things called mice and caseus, many years ago. They were called what are called expert systems. Big bit of history, right? And they were effectively what we currently call decision-making algorithms. Yeah, now don't quote me on this. Don't anybody quote me, but from what I understood, because I don't have much fact on them, is that they seem to run on what's called a Bayesian probability. The probability A given B equals C. And so you mesh those things together and you get a result at the end, likelihood result at the end. Now, Bayesian still forms a part of the whole AI thing right now. When I talk about tools and the tools to help you, yeah, one of the things that I found that for myself, I've got a lot of issue with is I can't type as fast as I need to get what's in my head down as soon as I need to in order to get it out into the world so I can look at it. And so I started recording myself. This little thing here, you can't see it probably with the phone. I spend most of my time not writing. I spend most of my time talking, translating that into text. So another one of the tools I used in the past has been Drag and Dictate, and most recently ChatGPT's voice to text.
Mm-hmm.
But coming back to AI for a second, the whole concept of Drag and Dictate is translated to text, but it couldn't do anything else with it. It just had text, and sometimes it got the text wrong. In fact, it probably at the best got about 80% reliability in what you actually put out there. Sorry, I'm not banging on Drag and Dictate at all. It's just that's the voice recognition text thing. And so what I try to do is I can talk as fast as I can write. So I represent what I'm trying to do in a voice form. I pump it into, okay, I love ChatGPT. I've got to say it. ChatGPT, and I get it translated into text for me. Then I run it through an agentic process to pull out the points that I'm looking for in that process and create notes. And in some cases, entire designs, software designs, because ChatGPT can also write scripts for other things as well. We won't go into that just yet. As far as productivity goes, things which have taken me it used to take me days to write code, simple wireframes and things like that, and actually put it up there, given the time that I had. So I put an hour a day here, an hour a day there. Now, a couple of seconds. I can see it immediately and I make changes as we go. I even built a tool for myself where I can code, it comes in ChatGPT, and it gives me the design as I'm going. Yeah, so my own little mini IDE. But through that process, what I've learned is further optimizations and further things. And through the cerebral hobbies of research, further stuff. So where AI fits in for me, for what I do, is it speeds me up. It's a force multiplier for the type of work that I do and the type of things I need to do, especially where it does excels is summarization. Because I'll read every single word in a script and then I'll pull out and I'll think about it and I'll go, is this what it did? Summarizing it. No. Now I'll have a quick scan of it and I'll put it into ChatGPT. And yes, it sounds lazy, but heck, it gives me the pattern that I'm looking for. If I want to search for a pattern, I'll say, this is what I'm looking for. Go in, and if you prompt it correctly, it'll actually pull out that bit of the work that you need, and you'll go back and you read that bit in context. And yes, that's what you're after. Saves you hours. So where something will take you a couple of hours, take you a couple of seconds, where something will take a couple of seconds will take you no time at all.
It's interesting about the wireframe side of it, because that's one thing I haven't really figured out with AI yet. Really? I heard someone suggest napkin.ai, which apparently allows you to make diagrams.
Yeah. What's happened as the AI is advanced? So when I started the whole AI thing, was pretty late on the scene because I went, AI. Yeah, it's been around for years. What are they doing now? But then the whole attention is all you need came out, and people went, "Oh," and it started working properly. But the proliferation of these different aspects of it, like napkin, like Juniper, pattern, whatever else there is out there, have been about forcing AI into a productivity framework that's standardized. The problem we have with that is, yes, they're standardized. So standardization, unfortunately, leads to, in many cases, in this, especially in the Cambrian explosion, that is the use of AI, set ways. And yes, it's great at that. But right now, ChatGPT can recognize a lot more. So you can do things, if you get the prompting right, that's the thing, with, say, an image of a workflow, ChatGPT and Mermaid Live. And then you get it scripted out. And then,
so you get it to generate XML, and then
no, you get it to generate script. XML is one thing you can generate, but I've been there since SGML days. You can get it to generate anything you like, but I prefer seeing something visual straight away. XML is great because it gives you reference points, and it's good at seeing patterns in XML. But I'm doing things like drawing and scribbling and writing, and then converting that into, let's call it, discrete representations of some things like that. But it's still immature. So we get a lot of tools pulling up as people think of different ideas, and they're great. But then you get a lot more tools as you go through. And this is the beauty of it. It's just going to keep evolving. We're just going to keep on top of it. And our brains are perfectly suited to actually doing that, because we get excited by it and we get into it, really get focused on it, and we can find different aspects of it that are novel. And innovation, I don't know whether I have to send you a book about innovation. Innovation is basically the realignment of current or the introduction of potentially new capabilities in a novel way. Barker and Stiles, I think it was. Don't quote me. I have to get the book for you and put it into the link there. It's a really good book to read. I did it before my master's degree on information science. But what's happening right now when you talk about these things, and it sounds like you're searching for tools as well, you're playing with all these things.
Yeah, because I found I can get it to read my scribbles, but I haven't found it, or at least ChatGPT, to effectively output diagrams. It tends to hallucinate, and it'll make images, and it'll have misspellings, and just the spatial representation isn't good.
It's so bad at that, but it's good at script.
Yeah, so you get it to write code, and then it generates images via the code.
Yeah, but it also hallucinates in the code there. So ChatGPT, what I found, I can't use the word problem, can I? But ChatGPT, with its context window, everything with a context window has a certain limit to what it can actually see. So at some point, if you're doing something large, it actually will forget what it's had previously. It's got a new memory feature, but I tend to switch that off because, being an architect in a certain field, I get a bit worried about where the data is stored. So I tend not to use that, but I have used it in the past. It's actually really good at agentic processing. But there will be others, I know, that will be able to do this better. ChatGPT, I find, is by far the best at representing interaction or performing interaction. But Anthropic Claude, I've got a colleague who's been using that. It seems to be better in certain aspects, such as, I'm not going to go there. Let's say certain aspects of it. But it's not going to be too long before somebody works out how to better represent images. Because OpenAI, they also have just recently, I just noticed it with some of the things I'm doing, try to correct the image generation on ChatGPT so that you can't do as photorealistic an image generation as you used to be able to do. It's not dumbed down per se, it's actually just reacting to. Yeah, you've got to play with all these things to find out. But I like ChatGPT because right now it suits what I need, and it's easy to actually implement because it's pretty much a de facto standard of interaction. So it's the OpenAI API mechanisms. Look into now, you're going, yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I'm so inspired that I need to take a break so I can go and play around with generating some diagrams.
Oh, good. Let's go off and do that.
Hi there, Focus and Chillers. Are you ready to supercharge your knowledge in the realms of creativity, tech, and psychology? Come check out my fortnightly newsletter. In each edition, you'll get quick wins and actionable takeaways that you can put into practice right away. If this sounds like you, I'd love to have you as a reader. Subscribe for your fortnightly dose of insights. The link is in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show.
All right, we're back from our break. I got some more tips about prompt engineering. And now my prompt to you is, what's your morning look like? You said it can be a bit challenging with kids.
Yeah, look, our mornings usually start from about 5 a.m. and I'm not a morning person. So my evenings usually finish around 11 p.m. But we usually start at 5 a.m. because one of the things that is absolutely critical is exercise. You've got to get, as I said, get to certain younger people, you've got to get your jigglies out before you can actually concentrate. And yeah, that sounded really mature. But really, it comes down to that. Take the dog for a walk and things like that. But after that, things are pretty much static. Because we are remoters, we work in here most of the time. And yes, I do attend client sites because for the type of work that I do need and I do enjoy interacting with them there, you need to find out what they need to do and how they need to do it and go away and do that sort of stuff. So in those cases there, it's really because they can be anywhere. I'm talking about here at home. I could be in a hotel room. I'd still go for a walk without the dog. But really it comes down to that. And then we're and when it's home, making sure the kids are getting out the door. But when it's elsewhere, it's just preparing for what you're trying to do that day. Because even though there are things to do, you're still thinking about a million and one things. You need to try and focus on what you're trying to deliver for that day. And it's a lot easier when you're doing that sort of work versus the internal work at home, because you do not, I wouldn't say get distracted, but you don't have conflicting commitments at that point in time. And it's driving those things that the morning routine actually is focused on, making sure you're getting to those marks, which sometimes is not easily linear when you have children. Or, okay, my children aren't that young anymore, but yeah.
Do you, as part of that focusing ritual, do you use a to-do list system? Do you do it on paper? Do you use Jira?
So whatever works. I'll put it that way. I'm not very good at handwritten to-do lists. My daughter is saying she's doing 2 degrees and language at 2 different universities. She just works on lists, and that's how she can do what she does. She's got everything segmented. I do it by outcome. This sounds really weird, I know. But what am I trying to achieve for that day? What do I need to get done to achieve that? And then working backwards from that. And if in a way that's a to-do list, but then I use my tools when I'm sitting down to actually work out what that looks like. Because when you're working across clients or multiple engagements or things like that, what somebody else needs is different to what another group would need. So you need to be not reactive, but more considerate of the different, possibly conflicting needs to be prepared for. So when I do have something to deliver specifically, then yes, I would use to-do list. But it's a different to-do list. I'll break the sections of what I need to do up, and I'll start working with them. And I work in a mind map sort of way. So while I'm writing something, I'll go, damn it, I should something else for that. And I'll go write that bit there. Then I'll come back to this and writing that, then go, heavens, I've got enough to start this section. I'll start that section. And everything works together to get to the result I want, because I write a lot of documents, a lot of designs. You get there in the end, the outcome is achieved, but it's not a linear process. It's just the way my mind works.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish my co-host was here because he really likes mind maps. Maybe we can have a part 2 where we can dive into how you structure it.
One of the people we represent is a mind map king. We've designed entire reference architectures for businesses using mind maps. And the tool he uses, once you've done the mind map, you hit print. You've got all your sections and your subsections, your titles and everything like that in order. And then you write it. And by that stage, because of the recordings and the text, all this sort of stuff, it's literally wow. So mind maps, I think for me, it's not so much a to-do list. A mind map works perfectly for me. In some cases. In other cases, I've got to do a little tick box.
Got it. All right. And last question quickly about the end of your day. Do you have any rituals around preparing for bed to help your mind shut down?
Yeah. It depends on what's happened during the day. I'm a gamer.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have been a gamer since games were games. Ping. You haven't probably even heard of most of the stuff we played. I don't know if you remember a game called Pong.
That's the table tennis one? With
on the computer.
Yep.
You've got the little thing. Yeah. So that's where I started. But in all seriousness, yeah, it depends. So if I feel like it, I'll play a bit of Diablo, a bit of Project Zomboid. I've got Elite Dangerous on my Xbox and things like that. But more often than not, I'm literally just either reading something or trying to switch my mind off, watching something absolutely meaningless. But it just varies. It's whatever is going to work for that point in time that's going to carry you across to being, But other times, I've got to say, I'll be sitting there doing that and my brain will go, oh my God, that's how I can solve that problem. And I'll be sitting up there for God knows how long, just using my tools to get it out. And then after I've got that out, I'd be so relaxed that I can sleep. And then I have to wake up in like 2 hours time.
Oh,
No, I'm joking. It's not that bad.
cool. Well, it's been fantastic talking with you. I feel like we could have gone for another hour easily.
You probably don't want to do that right now. But no, look, I really enjoyed that. It's been fantastic. And I'm sorry I did it off the cuff. There was no pre-thought to what we did. So thank you for putting up with me for that.
No, it was really interesting. So if people want to connect with you, I understand there's a new website for Kaven. Where would they find that?
On the web.
Okay, so just search for
It's www.kavn.au.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. So that's where they connect with us. They can also, if they want to talk to you to get to me, that's great too. I'm van@kavn.au. Look, anybody's welcome to contact me even for a chat. We've had situations where people just needed to have a chat, and we did. We actually provide, I'm not trying to advertise here, but what we found is founders like us, they have the ups and downs, and sometimes the downs are really downs. So we've actually started doing, I guess you call founder support, if you want, for want of a better word. And we actually have a program that we started with our previous company where we are available to them just 24/7 for as long as they need it for communication. Because like us, they all have pressures on them that are not normal. They're career promoters. So that means that they're on a different path. They don't have the sort of psychological support that others do in organizations. So we provide that first aid. Let's call it psychological first aid support, because we're not qualified. We've got degrees, but not qualified psychologists, as in the whole clinical psychology background. But we find that they just need to talk. So they can get it to us in any number of ways. But yes, Kavn.au is the website, and van@kavn.au is me.
Wonderful. And do you have any final words or asks for the audience?
Yeah. Accept who you are, right? Just do that. Be happy. Try and be happy with who you are. And you're no different to anybody else. You are your own person. And once you can accept them and accept yourself, then you can start living your life.
Wonderful. And we'll
that sounded really serious, didn't it? Sorry. I should have made it more light.
No, it's an important message. All right, I'll stop recording. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.